Hey there, Nomad of Nowhere After Show fans! Welcome back to Rooster Teeth Reviews. Tonight we're talking about Season 1, Episode 12 of Nomad of Nowhere, Fiesta. We're going to be breaking down the episode, and guys, we have a very special guest joining us tonight, so stay tuned.
You're tuned in to AfterBuzz TV, the ESPN of TV talk. Now, let the buzz begin.
How dare you? You can't see my peewee because it's under the table and I'm already... My knees are at my ears.
I know why we picked this song, but I always think of The Sandlot when I hear it.
Also very good.
Yep, it's a very good movie.
Pee-wee, this, Teenage Mutant... Sorry, off the topic. Anyway.
I have no movie associations with this song. I just like this song.
It's a great song to play at a fiesta. Hey there, Nomad of Nowhere fans! Welcome back to the Nomad of Nowhere After Show here on AfterBuzz TV. Let's not waste any time. Let me go ahead and introduce my fantastic panel. To my left, Mark Donica.
I'm from the internet.
So he is! To his left, Stacey Shuttleworth.
Hello.
And to her left, Katie Cullen.
I was legit hoping that mine would match with tequila, but not quite.
My name is
Tequila.
There we go. And my name is Megan Salinas. Guys, we are going to be keeping an eye on the hashtag RT Reviews. We want to hear your guys' thoughts on the season finale of Nomad of Nowhere. And also, if you guys happen to have any questions for our lovely guests, you throw them in the hashtag. That's the best place for them. Although we do have those of you watching live covered on the live chat as well.
Yes, we do. Speaking of our guest, I think we have him on the line.
Mark is lying.
Is he there?
Hey, Eddie, are you there?
Do we need to clap him awake too?
Yes, hello.
Yay! Yay! Everyone,
First try.
we are joined tonight via Skype by the wonderful Eddy Rivas. How are you doing tonight?
I am doing fantastic, actually.
So it's very good to hear. We're happy to have you here for the end of the season. In case you missed it, we had Eddie joining us for the end of episode 6, where we had so many questions. A lot of those questions being answered with these past couple of episodes, but we're excited to get non-answers from you tonight.
Yes.
Yeah, it's fine. I can just tease lots of things. It's cool.
Just give a bunch of fake spoilers. Or spoilers for different shows.
Rosebud.
How dare you? So yeah, let's go ahead and dig into it. Again, Eddie, thank you so much for joining us tonight. What was the mindset sort of going into this finale when you guys sat down to write it?
Yeah, the main thing was just making sure that we kind of paid off everything that we were setting up, and mostly for each character. We had kind of a big moment where we like the season had like a general outline when we were heading into it. We kind of knew like episodes 1 through 5 were kind of bounty hunter specific. We knew episode 6 was going to be the tower and some of the origin stuff of El Rey, and then kind of 7 through, I don't even remember kind of how we had outlined it there, but it was all very general. Like we knew the things that had to happen. So we had this kind of big moment as we were like heading into those episodes where we kind of stopped and said, okay, what exactly do all of our characters want? And what are they doing to get that? Because we didn't want anything to feel manufactured, like people doing things for plot reasons. And so heading into 12, the main thing was just making sure that like, okay, this is everybody has drawn their line in the sand, and this is kind of their just desserts, I guess, so to speak.
Trying to hit all those story beats while still making everything feel organic and natural.
Yes.
Well, it did feel
And to
that
make sure
way,
Paragon got eaten.
Well, that brings us to our first question. Cam Griffin asked in the chat, was Don Paragon's fate inspired by We're Back, a Dinosaur Story?
I'm actually not too sure about that. I've never seen it, but I know that it was that kind of heading into writing it that we knew that was going to happen. So I don't want to speak for the other guys. It might have been inspired, like an inspiration for like Miles or Jordan, but I remember that was a thing kind of on our kind of in our playbook that like we wanted El Rey to make an appearance. We wanted Don Paragon to get eaten. And so I'm not sure. I can't speak for them.
Okay, and while we're in this space right there, there's a question that I wanted to ask. When in a season and a second half of a season where we've introduced one of the governors, Toro, why introduce El Rey at the same time? I was wondering about that.
Yeah, the main thing was like when we were introducing Toro, kind of showing like there's a little bit of world building going on there, right? To show that Don Paragon's like definitely not the highest guy in the totem pole, but then also to kind of like mess with your expectations a little bit about what you expect from these kind of big bad governors. And I'll probably talk a little bit more about this later, but the expectation would be that Toro would show up instead of El Rey. And so, I don't know, we there's a lot of things that we try to do in the show where the show zigs when you think it's going to zag. And so having the big bad make his appearance and put his stamp on things, and establish some kind of cool parallels against or like duality against our hero, was definitely something that we really, really wanted to do.
Yeah.
It took me a literal week to put together that, the Nomad is a scarecrow and El Rey is represented by crows. Like, seriously, a literal week. I was rewatching episode 10 and going, why did he freak out when the crows dug out? Like, okay.
Everyone needs to do their crow rewatch now and see where the crows were kind of throughout the season.
I'm gonna.
If it makes you feel better, Katie, you want to know how long it took me to realize that?
Just now?
Yep, literally just now.
It's been a long
I
week.
do feel better. It's been a long everything for everyone.
So, before we dig too far into the episode, we have a quick announcement for you guys, for those of you longtime AfterBuzz fans.
Yes, we do. We want to let you know that our network produces after shows for nearly all of your favorite TV shows, for dramas, reality, sci-fi, and more. There's no network that works harder to please television fans. We need your help, though. We are asking that you please subscribe to one or more of our YouTube channels, like right here at AfterBuzz TV Animation, to help support some of the stuff that we're talking about. Attack on Titan, BoJack Horseman. There's some My Hero stuff going on. There's a robot show. So make sure you subscribe here, and that way YouTube will continue to suggest stuff that's tailor-made for you, and it will help us to grow. If you're worried about those pesky notifications, don't worry, they are optional. So hit that subscribe button now for this channel and check out our other AfterBuzz YouTube channels as well. Let us know you did so in the comments and we will shout you out on air. But for now, thank you for being the best fans and for helping us be the ESPN of TV talk.
Yeah, thank you guys. You guys are the best. So
It's Voltron. The joke was Voltron.
Yes.
That was the robot. So you guys mentioned you really wanted Don Paragon to be eaten by the end of this season. So yeah, let's talk about Don Paragon a little bit, because what we get is actually a pretty big action set piece where the Nomad finally stops running and actually fights head to head with someone, and that someone is Don Paragon. Let's go across the table real quick. Guys, what did you think of this big climactic confrontation?
I didn't think the pinata was going to last.
I didn't think it was going to become a full-on Godfather reference. Like, that was pretty great.
It's pretty
Really
solid.
went in.
Yep.
Man, it was actually.
I actually got a funny story about the pinata. That was there was a gag that was cut from this episode that I had been trying to shove in the entire season of the pinata brought to life, where Don Paragon cuts the head off the pinata, and then the dandies surround the Nomad, and this was in the original script. And right when they all surround them, the pinata head comes out of nowhere and still bites one of them. And then
Princess Mononoke.
and then so they still have to deal with like the severed head and the body. And then there's a stupid dad joke gag where all the dandies surround the pinata, all holding sticks, and start beating it to death.
That's
So
terrifying.
yeah, we had to cut it. We had to cut that one for time, and for just the amount of effort it would take for one joke. But it was that was one that I had literally been pushing for the entire season, and then we had to cut it at the last minute, and I was very sad.
Oh.
And DVD content.
I think we're all just like,
Yeah.
pinatas.
We're just
picturing this. Yep.
It is delightful. I really loved getting to see the two of them actually square off, because it's fun getting to see a character that normally pontificates actually engage in combat, and it's fun having and it's true with anybody who shares a scene with the Nomad, but for Don Paragon in particular, anytime you get a character who likes the sound of their own voice, who likes to pontificate and make speeches, it's fun to pair them up with a silent protagonist. There's a lot of fun dynamics that you guys can have there. So I really wanted to get your guys' take. What do you guys think of the Rock suit of armor?
I love how quickly, like I love how quickly the dynamic of this fight changes, because the rock suit of armor against Don Paragon, who is a finesse fighter anyway, he fights with a rapier, for goodness sake. And you see him going up against that and going, oh no, that's not going to last. And the second Toth walks into the ring, it's, oh, now the rock suit's not going to last. It's amazing how quickly the dynamic of the fight changes depending on who's participating, and I love it.
Yes, I think that was interesting. Also, I mean, the rock suit itself, though.
Yes.
This little rock. I mean, because he makes these little friends, but they're also so loyal. It's like, yeah, we're gonna jump up and make you a suit of armor or a suit of rocks.
Yeah, Eddie, was there anything about sort of staging this action set piece that you guys found particularly challenging?
Mostly just making sure we had the layout of the Oasis kind of nailed down. But then, honestly, was trying to make sure, again, that every character got their emotional beats, because it wasn't going to be satisfying if the Nomad by himself, just beats Don Paragon, because Toth needed a moment with Don Paragon also. Toth needed a moment to kind of get her, slight sense of justice there. And then Toth and the Nomad needed a moment. And then we also needed a moment with Skout and Toth. And so trying to make sure every character got something they deserved, doing right by all of them was definitely probably the biggest challenge that we had, just staging that whole thing.
It's fight choreography of a different kind. Yeah.
Yeah.
Make sure the
emotional
present.
beats of the fight.
Yeah.
And also kind of giving the Nomad the chance to go on the offensive. How did the brainstorming process work in terms of figuring out how the Nomad would engage in combat? Because it's not like he takes the sword and then starts fighting with the sword. He actually throws the sword away. How did you guys come up with the idea of using what he has at his disposal to engage in combat?
Yeah, it was mostly just trying to make sure that we show that there are, that really the limitations of his power definitely have some limitations on them, but then there's also some ways that he can apply them creatively, just to kind of give some sense of where this could ultimately go and some different things he can start to do. At the beginning of the season, he couldn't control the water wheel, but now he's gained some more confidence. He can control the statue. There's just different ways he can apply this stuff, and we wanted to make sure that it felt a little bit more true to who he was. We didn't want to see the Nomad blasting people with fire, or stalking Don Paragon with his bare straw glove hands. You know what I mean? So he had to adapt a little bit, and so we had a lot of fun trying to figure out what that was going to look like, for sure.
Did you guys have a favorite moment of the fight in particular?
My favorite moment is when Toth shows up, and you just kind of see just how freaking driven she is, and then also that Nomad still doesn't really have a desire to fight her.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so, he still doesn't even want to do it because she's not the same as Don Paragon. And so that's a moment that I really like, where you've seen him go on the offensive, and then he doesn't really know what to do against someone like Toth, and Toth is just she's just going to stop at nothing.
Yeah, she's punching rocks with her bare fists. Does not care.
She's so strong.
Yeah. But not emotionally.
No.
Watching her make that snap decision with that's all I have. It wrecked me emotionally.
You're talking about with the axe?
With the axe.
I was like, oh, sweet. Are we going there? Let's go there.
We live there.
Dark emotions.
Let's
We
go
live in
ahead.
a constant state of emotional devastation, punctuated by the occasional "shut up, Red Manuel."
And you can't bring that, and you can't bring us back from that, because our emotions are dead from this show.
I was
Doesn't
gonna
work.
wait until we talked about Skout for a little bit, but let's go ahead and jump to this moment.
Oh my God.
Because it is such an emotional high point of the episode. Skout intervenes in this conflict, and we have this moment on the rooftop with the Nomad, Skout, and Toth. And Toth is there with a giant flipping axe. So, and there's this moment. Go ahead.
Literally a flipping axe, because she throws it and it just ends over
And
end.
it spins. And there's this moment where she makes the decision to go ahead and, as you said, Katie, stop at nothing. And she throws the axe. And I wanted to ask Eddie, in the script, because there's a lot of look of pain on Toth's face before she makes this decision. Was there any particular sort of notes that you guys had in the script describing sort of the emotional conflict she's feeling for the animators?
Yeah, what was the stage directions for that?
Yeah, I haven't looked at it in a long time, but we definitely did talk about that she's, because the way we describe a lot of stuff in the Nomad scripts is kind of spare but like very succinct. Just because that's kind of how we feel like the show visually works. But yeah, we definitely talked about that there's a hesitation and there's a moment and she doesn't know what she's going to do. But I honestly, like, the animators took that and like took it to like the nth degree. I love what they did with that the first time I saw it. It was just fantastic.
It was pretty devastating.
Really played with those emotions.
So, yeah, I want to ask you guys here at the table, did you guys think she was going to throw the axe? When there's that moment of hesitation, did you guys actually think she was going to go through with it?
I thought there was a chance. It wasn't definite in my mind, but I thought she's been through so much that there's entirely a possibility that she could throw it.
Stacey.
It's one of those zigzag moments like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. I think the lines have been drawn pretty firmly at this point in time, where they are emotionally, where they are developmentally, like in their character arcs. So yeah, I kind of was like, oh yeah, here we go.
I didn't think she would, but I was not surprised when she did.
The gay chameleon in chat says, that axe hit my heart.
Mine too.
Ow! Oh, man!
Wow!
Get wrecked.
Steve on the soundboard, just dang!
So, Eddie, was it always the plan to put Skout and Toth to make, by the end of the season, to make them diametrically opposed?
Yeah, that was a big thing that we wanted to do, and it's sort of what I talked about like a tiny bit earlier, is that like one of the things that we really wanted to do with the show is set up something that looks kind of like something that you've seen before. I mean, the Old West is very familiar. We've got these characters with these tropes that all seem very familiar. And then kind of as the show started progressing, you know, about the halfway point, we always wanted to like, oh, we're setting this up so that this looks like it's going to happen and it looks so predictable, but then we zag like at the last second. And so that was something with them that like the predictable thing is Toth comes to that cell in episode 11 and apologizes, and now they're on the same team. And in the middle of that scene, she's still going to be Toth, you know? And we wanted to be true to that. And so we always wanted to put them on different sides of this eventually. And the main thing was that we also wanted to do it in a way where, you know, Toth wasn't just wrong or the bad guy. It's more about like these, based on the information they have, they're just betting on different horses to kind of win this race.
Yeah.
And so that was something that we had always wanted to see happen. That the two of them would just end up on different sides of that and have their own like just reasons in their mind.
That's one of my favorite things about this relationship, is that despite the fantastical setting, these disagreements and these relationships, we can see them in our everyday lives. So it's less about, I want to bring magic back, you don't understand, and more about, I'm trying to help my people, and I'm trying to help the world. And it's a very good conversation that I think more people need to see, so that they can understand maybe if there's somebody in their life that they're not necessarily seeing the same page with, that that's why we're looking at the same thing and just speaking different languages or something like that.
Yes, I think you made an actual really great reference. I'm getting it now. I believe you made the comparison to in Hamilton, Aaron.
Well,
Burr
you said
Hamilton.
diametrically opposed, and now the song stuck in my head. Yeah. That's what I meant by that. But go ahead, please.
Yeah, because it's talking about Hamilton parallels. Aaron Burr and Hamilton want the same thing, but they go about it very, very differently.
See, now what you're proposing is that one of our two heroines is going to end up dead, and I don't like that.
But
one.
neither of them uses a gun. Red Manuel tried that already, and
Shut up, Red Manuel.
thank you.
Oh, I'm gonna miss hearing.
There it is.
Donica. I'm gonna miss hearing Don Paragon's voice. I'm not gonna miss him as a character, but I'm gonna miss the voice acting. It was
He
delightful.
had really good voice and really good crazy eyes. Like, wow.
I'll talk to Max.
For sure. Before we move too far into the rest of the episode, because we still have a lot to cover, I want to talk to you guys really quickly about iTunes. Folks, thank you so much to everybody who's gone to iTunes to rate, subscribe, leave a comment. We love hearing from you. This is the best way to let our producers know that you guys like the show that we're putting on. Helps us get guests, makes us more searchable, all that fun stuff. And when we get new iTunes comments, we will give you a shout out on the show. So go and do that.
Because we don't have any.
Nope.
That was a slight.
But we also have another quick announcement, if you guys might recall. Last week, we talked to you a little bit about a giveaway.
Yeah, so we had a giveaway sponsored by Verve for 3 prizes, each of them being 1 month of Verve Premium for free. And our 3 winners are Ty, ELS Gaming, Cam Griffin, and La Misteriosa Volpe. So, DM me on Twitter, and we will talk. Congratulations.
Yeah, congratulations to all of our winners. You guys are fantastic. Thank you to everybody who participated. Y'all are great.
That seems a lot more negative than positive. One more time, in stereo.
That got awkward.
What happened?
We had a mob, I guess.
I think that was the sound of everybody who participated who didn't win.
Oh, I thought it was
Possibly.
the Voltron fandom.
Voltron fandom has a few more explosions.
Oh, fair.
Let's
Makes
be
sense.
completely
Garbage
real.
fires.
So
Is that the sound of a garbage fire?
No, that's the thing, is
No.
it needed a garbage fire to be a little
To
bit
be the
closer
Voltron
to the...
fandom.
there we go. Talking, you guys, we were touching on Skout's storyline in this episode, and yeah, let's talk a little bit, because I want to talk about this confrontation between Skout and Red Manuel, because earlier in the season, I wanted Red Manuel to potentially have a redemption arc, and then at the end of was it episode 9?
Which one?
Compass. At the end of Compass, when he tries to shoot Skout, I threw that notion completely out the window. I was
Which
like,
is a
nope,
shame.
irredeemable. There's nothing good
killed
about this
my
man.
boy.
There's nothing good about this man. But here we see yet another side of Red Manuel that we've been getting little bits and pieces of all season. So, Eddy, I wanted to ask you, was this sort of, did you guys always plan on humanizing Red Manuel, or was this something you wanted to do to sort of give Skout and him like an interest, a little bit more of a layered dynamic?
Oh, no, yeah, we always wanted to humanize him. The joke the whole season long was that he had like a really rough home life. And so we had always talked about like seeing a glimpse of it at some point, just that he, is like, that he like slaves away and like has all these like ungrateful family members around him. And we had always joked about that and wanted to figure out a way to make that work. And having it happen in that scene is like, that scene is probably like one of my favorite like bits in the entire season, like the delivery of the oh my god.
Yep.
It makes me laugh harder like every time I watch it. But yeah, Red Manuel was like he's one of our favorite things that we added to the season, because he wasn't in the original outline at all. It was just, we kind of had plans for Skout, Toth, and Nomad and Don Paragon. And when I was writing the first episode, I wanted to have some conflict right off the bat, because there wasn't. I mean, it's just Skout and Toth going through the jungle kind of thing. And so I wanted there to be some kind of conflict. And so we wrote in this character that was like the second in command that was going to be a foil to Toth. And then later, when we knew that Don Paragon was going to capture Skout, we were like, oh, Red Manuel is perfect for this. And I mentioned in the chat last week that Red Manuel was originally Red Sophia. We eventually changed that. But Red Manuel was always, the thing to have that human moment.
Please Clap in the chat wanted to know why you ended up going with Manuel instead of Sophia.
There were a couple of reasons. One, he just seemed like way more of a dick when it was like a dude for whatever reason. But then also like something that we kind of came to realize, just because we wanted to make sure like this show had some great women and we didn't want, like, at the same side of, like, we're seeing some conflict. We didn't want the first conflict we had on screen to be between two women vying for the same thing, because we didn't want that to be kind of a familiar trope. And so because of that, and because, like, Red Manuel sounds like, and, like, just the character and the accent, because we had this accent that we would do around the table. We were like, oh, this guy sounds like such a dick.
I think one of my favorite bits about him is just that every time he has that little guitar sting.
That little sting. That I love it. I love it so much. He has his own theme music.
It is,
and it occasionally goes when he gets.
What I really love about this moment is that it's the moment of honesty. I feel like that hurts more than actually getting launched out of a cannon. Like the and if you look at it, like, the only people who have really been honest to Red Manuel's face are our three amigos. Sort of like, and there's this hesitation when Skout has to tell him, hey, to be honest, you're kind of a jerk.
My God.
She hesitates more telling him he's a jerk to his face than she does launching him out of that cannon.
Who's the real evil person here?
Red Manuel.
A man who's hit rock bottom just trying to make an honest living for his family. Yeah, it's him.
And then hit some literal rocks.
Yes.
Yes. Now, obviously, we don't want any spoilers, but I wanted to pose this question to the table. Is it possible for him, now that he's had this very human moment, is it possible that he can be redeemed?
I think so. I think it's going to be either extreme. It's either he becomes the new governor of the Oasis, and he rules with a flowery fist instead of an iron fist, and he sort of becomes a man of the people, and one of the first sort of the thing that will put the Southwest on the map isn't the allegiance to El Rey, it's the quote allegiance to the Nomad. I think when you hit rock bottom like this and you get that sort of rom-com-esque trope of somebody telling you exactly what's wrong with you, you tend to wake up a little bit. So I can see that, but I can also see him doubling down.
I kind of feel the same. However, I think Skout's words have a lot of impact, and I think Skout is generally a reliable kind of judge of character, and I think he knows that. So I kind of see him swinging the complete opposite way of how he was, and still being overdramatic and really over the top, but trying to do it in a good, positive way.
Stoic in chat referred to Red Manuel as the Starscream, and that... I think that's pretty spot on, honestly, and that informs a lot of my prediction. Is it possible? Yes. Is it going to take a lot of work and some very specific circumstances? Also yes. And he's going to have to want it.
Not a Troll says he'll become a pacifist. Purple Manuel. That's for our red versus blue. And then it'll turn out he's an AI, Blue Manuel.
And Melachroma says a little blunt force trauma never hurt anyone, which... disagree.
Skout's words hurt him more than the literal ton of bricks.
I mean, I don't think so. I don't think that's physically possible.
He got back up and started doing the Red Manuel is not, and then Toth finished it. So
what was he going to say?
A jerk, probably.
I think that he's not an idiot, despite, some earlier assertions. He's not as foolish as we sort of kind of took him at face value for earlier in the season. I think he's smart enough to recognize that to get the one thing that he really wants, respect, he's going to have to make some changes.
Yeah, if he does become the new governor of the Oasis, that's... He's not going to be able to take over by force. The dandelions and the people around won't let him. So he's going to have to take a very different path if he wants to do that.
I think the more prudent question is about the dandelions. With Toth's new determination, do they stick with her?
Ooh.
The dandelions definitely called Toth out on her behavior earlier. At least our three amigos did. So I don't see that happening, especially now that we do have a power vacuum at the Oasis. Like, we have Toth, who's been the second in command for forever and who actually has respect, and who has been kind of handpicked by the series' big bad. And we have Red Manuel, who was promoted to second in command, but nobody likes him. So we'll see.
You guys touched on the dandelions, and there's a moment with the dandelions, particularly our three amigos in this episode, where our three amigos basically become a mariachi band.
I love them.
And that filled me with so much joy. Eddy, I wanted to ask a little bit about that, because these three have been some standout, really fun characters this season. Like, what was the idea in terms of like what you wanted them to do in this season finale?
Mainly, we wanted them to kind of, I mean, the whole idea with them in general is that they were sort of like our little like running commentary on like what was going on, you know, to have like your three kind of normal bros who like all got jobs at the same place, you know, just kind of commenting on like all the outlandish things going on about them. And originally they weren't even like characters. It was just like there was always like a handful of dandelion, like, you know, comments coming in. And then kind of as we got part of the way through the season, we did what we kind of named them and created these like personas around them when we went back and we did what we called the Three Amigo Pass, where we went through all the scripts and like really fleshed these guys out and changed like all those little interjecting lines and stuff. And so for the season finale, we wanted them to be able to kind of be there and comment on things, and then to kind of like bring a little hope at the end. You know, one of them has the line that, you know, there's plenty of water, like the water's fine. We've all got plenty to drink, just to kind of let everyone know that the Oasis is going to be okay.
Yeah, the water runs deep, and they were like, oh, is that metaphorically or literally? ¿Por qué no los dos?
Yeah, Noel's finally having a good day.
We had a question in the chat. Now, you might be a little bit biased, but Caitlin Geddes wants to know if there's a particular character that you really identify with.
It's Jethro.
Well, what's funny is that I don't know how much I could say about this. Every time we would do kind of script reads among ourselves, like I was always the person reading the Jethro line, so it's kind of funny that I ended up getting cast as Santi, because the Jethro lines are just like very near and dear to my heart, having grown up in East Texas.
That's amazing. Did you give it the same drawl that Ryan ended up giving it?
Yeah, it was very similar. Okay. Yeah, and yeah, so I actually have like a fondness for Jethro's like just complete like the doubting Thomas of the group, you know.
Well, he's so earnest too.
Yeah, they all are.
Yeah, they're very earnest.
It's the id, the ego, and the super ego.
Kind of is.
So we get the wonderful, these three amigos. They're definitely a highlight for me for this season. But let's go ahead and talk about El Rey.
No. Yeah.
No.
Say, can we talk about Birdman for a bit here?
I'm sad. I'm scared.
I'm scared.
Too spooky.
Too spooky. Can't talk about the king.
It's the month for spooky. You gotta embrace it.
It is Spook o'clock. I will say that afterwards was, who does the voice? Why do I recognize that? And then looking it up, the video is not up on my channel yet, but I just screamed when we found out who does El Rey's voice, because it's also All for One.
And Lord Death. Yeah, so we that leads to a question from Ace Trainer, their variety of numbers next to their screen name. But what did you have anything to do with casting John, or did you have somebody in mind? Did you want this type of voice? What was the process of casting him as El Rey?
It's actually funny that you asked that. John Swayze is actually an old friend of mine from Houston. So I used to be in Houston, and what was funny is I knew he was an actor and like he was in commercials and stuff, but I had no idea he was like a voice actor in like anime. And he was just like a normal dude at like our church with like kids and just like a dad, you know. and someone was like, "Hey, you're like a geeky dude. Like you like those animes. Like, did you know John Swayze does some like anime voices?" I was like, "Oh, cool, that's neat." And when I looked up, I was like, "He's freaking Gendo Ikari." And then I couldn't talk to him because I was always like fangirling every time I did. But no, starting a while back, he started like messaging me and was like, "Hey, how can I get into Ruby?" And I'm like, "I have nothing to do with that." Kind of his name along to people, and he read for a few parts in Nomad, and I was really, really happy when he was cast as Elray, because it's just perfect. Like the first time I heard it, I was like, yes, I was so happy.
Yep.
Yeah, it's terrifying.
Yep.
Absolutely horrifying.
One of my favorite sort of visual components about El Rey is that all of the crows speak in unison.
Yeah.
And this is an excellent example of something that I don't at all think would work in live action, but through the power of animation, it is legitimately chilling.
Oh, yeah.
I could see similarly to like a Dark Knight or Batman Begins of like all of the bats, but it's just the murder of crows and a face coming through it and speaking through that. But this we got to see our power scope. We got to see the Nomad, non-living beings, tiny little rock friends, as opposed to this where it's a bunch of living creatures that he can control individually at will, and that's awful. That's just the worst.
And presumably it's implied that he could be any crow at any time, or all the crows all the time.
The
Rock mech versus crow mech. It's gonna happen.
it feels like a very Lord of the Rings reference. Like, you know, they're wandering through the forest and they're like, "Oh, the birds carry messages to the Dark Lord." But
Well, it is a murder of crows, so
that is always a fun thing to say when you're talking about a group of crows. What I really liked about the comparison that you made, Mark, the Nomad has the power to bestow life to inanimate objects. It seems like part of El Rey's abilities are being able to seize life,
Yes.
and use it for his own devices, and that it's a wonderful sort of yin and yang, but also a sort of terrifying parallel. Were there Eddie? Were there any other parallels that you guys put in this season that you wanted fans to sort of pick up on?
Yeah, another one there is the idea that when you think about kind of what each of them are doing, the Nomad creates while El Rey consumes.
Yeah,
and
that's awesome.
That's kind of a big thing that puts the two of them on opposite ends of the spectrum there.
I like that parallel
Makes
too.
sense.
A fun duality to work with.
Yeah, fun. Jesus.
I'm so mad.
I mean,
staring in
the
the face of
second
his
it
terror.
was, "I'm not angry, I'm a little hungry," was like, oh no, I'm having flashbacks to that movie. That
also-
terrified me when I was a kid. We're done.
I also like the call out of the, "Hey, can I get some of your power?" And we all know, okay, this is a line, this is great. But then him going, "Oh, no, this isn't what I meant. I misspoke. One more time." Sort of like the genie thing of, "I wish I had $1 million and it's a stampede of horned deer."
You're doing that thing where you use
your
my words against me.
Yeah. Perhaps I was a little angry. Oh God.
And I'm sorry I forgot who brought it up. We never got the Nomad bringing Don Paragon's wig to life, and which just gave me the idea: would it have been like foppish? Like, would it have been like, I mean, it wouldn't vocalize the, but would it walk a little bit lighter and sort of expository?
Would its tiny little stick feet have had a little high heels?
I would imagine it actually would have been very, very angry.
Perhaps.
You had to be stuck on that guy's head all day.
It's been liberated.
It is a power wig. So
That's true.
it has some mad eyes for sure.
It definitely would have a lot of sass to it.
Yeah.
Oh, good Lord. Ace Trainer in chat says, anyone else worried that he's still alive as the compass? And Eddie, shh.
No, I don't know if that's what he was shushing.
No?
But anyway, if only we could ask him. But we're running a little bit low on time, so.
We are running a little bit low on time. Eddie, you were saying that like the entire season, the whole plan was to make sure that Don Paragon was eaten by El Rey. Was the plan always crows, or was he going to be swallowed up by darkness, or maybe even the crown itself at any given point?
No, it was definitely always crows.
Nice.
Because we had that the whole thing with like the crows kind of being present throughout the season. We knew that the scarecrow thing was coming, and so there was that was always kind of planned in there. And I don't know. One of my favorite things about the finale has been, because that was kind of the big question, was like how were people going to respond to El Rey, because everyone's been kind of waiting and wondering if we'll see him. And it's I don't know, it's been super cool to see how excited like you guys are about it. And we really wanted him to be almost this like kind of chummy grandfatherly, but then when Grandpa's mad, it's like real bad.
Yeah.
Murder Grandpa.
That quiet terror going.
So bird has always been the word then.
Like, well, you said Gendo Ikari earlier, so it's like, yeah, that lines up. That checks out. That checks out.
It's a very good frame of
That totally
reference.
checks out.
Yep.
Absolutely. Yeah, so this our season gets brought to a close with Skout and the Nomad riding off into the sunset together, and this is a great moment because he clarifies for her that he wants to stick together and that he's not looking for a partner, he's looking for a friend. Mm-hmm. And that to me was just so sweet and so perfect.
I wish you would have just grabbed her hand one more time. Like, that's not how. Wait, what?
You're taking me hostage?
Oh, you want to be a friend?
So I thought that was a very sweet sort of way to put a pin in this particular season.
And the rock friend waving goodbye.
Yeah, that was lovely. Eddie, was there ever a discussion about whether ending on this nice note was the way to go, or if like the order of events was going to be switched up so that you guys would actually end on El Rey instead?
Yeah, we actually did talk about that, of whether or not we wanted to make the El Rey scene a stinger. But at the end of the day, we really felt like this show is we liked having that happiness moment, like having those, the show's very sweet, like at its core. It's dark and gets weird. It is very sweet at its core. And so we really wanted to end it on that note. And for us, it was him extending his hand, it's the same as when they first met, and friend.
Yeah.
And so we really wanted to like put the button on that and have that be kind of our closer. But yeah, we definitely did talk about putting the El Rey scene last, just to kind of linger, but we wanted the sweet moment.
It's a very Rooster Teeth move.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just also special shout out to Elizabeth Maxwell, because Skout doing different voices for the Nomad just gave me life. Absolutely.
So precious.
Going around the table, since we are running short on time, let's go around the table. Final thoughts on season 1.
I'm very happy with how we were left. And I know what you've told us, Eddie, what the sort of plan is for the run of the show. But this, despite getting more forward momentum, we did really ended on something. It wasn't a moment in between. It was, even now you're like, oh, El Rey's gonna come, but at least they have each other. It left it like you were saying. I'm very much enjoyed that we were left with a happy moment, because it felt a little bit more fulfilling, just so that we can go back and be ripped apart again by all of the terrible, in a very Red Manuel-esque way of oh my god, of what this show has done to us in season 1.
Stacey?
I think this was so satisfying. Just, you had your little checklist of things that you wanted to happen or kind of needed to know, and we've checked so many of those off, and it's just so nice. And like now the possibilities have opened up, so like we have places to go, and we saw them riding off into the sunset. We're going there.
Katie?
I'm gonna have to go do a crow watch. I've loved this show so far. I've loved this season. It has torn my heart out and stomped on it and then dusted it off and been like, here you go, get ready for season 2. And I'm like, okay, I'm in. Yes. I really do adore this show, though. This is absolutely fantastic.
Eddie, any final thoughts for season 1?
Final thoughts, mainly just, super freaking grateful for all the people that have watched it and really gotten into it. The show is super special to everyone on the team. It's really, really special for me. Just I just felt like I really connected with it from the moment I saw the pitch. So it's just been great to have everyone come along and join these characters, and we really wanted to do right by them. And our goal was from episode 1 was like by the end of the season we're gonna answer everything that we set up in the first episode, and I felt like we told a complete story that we're all like super, super proud of. I'm ridiculously proud of the show and ridiculously proud of everything everybody's done and all the hard work everyone's done. So yeah, and just really thankful that everyone's come along for the ride with us.
Well, we appreciate you guys for all of your hard work, and we appreciate you for joining us tonight. Where can people go if they want to keep up with you and all of your other projects?
I am on Twitter making dad jokes at Eddy Rivas. That's generally how I spend my time on there. So if you want some good dad jokes, get on there.
Hashtag only Papas.
Again, thank you so much, Eddie, for joining us tonight. It's been an absolute pleasure getting to chat with you about this season. And thank you so much for being so supportive of our show.
And all
for trolling our chat.
And all of the fact that it's been such an open conversation, not just with us, but with the reaction community. It's been a wonderful pleasure to get to know you.
Oh, well, thank you guys. You guys are amazing. You're like my favorite people on the planet.
Oh,
I'm super excited. Yeah, every time I get to talk to you guys. So it's been great.
Well, we're definitely going to hold you to that.
Don't be a stranger.
When season 2 comes around. So thank you again so much, Eddie. We hope you have a wonderful night. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Eddie.
All right. Well, guys, don't worry. There'll be plenty of time for predictions next week, since we'll be doing a full season recap of season 1 of Nomad of Nowhere next week. So in the meantime, Katie, where can people go if they want to find you?
You can follow me all over the social medias as well as on YouTube at Kiaxet. That is Kiaxet. If you like reaction videos for these episodes, they live on that YouTube channel, as does my Overwatch podcast, On The Point.
Stacey.
Guys, I'm Stacey Shuttleworth. You can find me all over the web at Stacey Shuttles. You can also find me over at Twitch at Inventory Full PT, where we play and talk video games.
I was trying to do low key air horns.
I don't think you can low-key air horn.
I don't know about that. You gotta commit or nothing.
Yeah.
Mark, where can people find you?
You can find me on that gaming channel as well, and at Mark B. Donica. Hey, did you know that we do another show called Welcome to Vale? That's Ruby themed. Flip a dip.
Nailed it.
Make sure to check us out on iTunes as well as our YouTube channel. We put out a new-ish episode. In case you missed us at RTX, we put out the live episode that we did in front of the world and 69 people. Nice. Megan mentioned it. I just wanted to reinforce we are going to be doing a season 1 recap of Nomad of Nowhere next week, and we may have a special guest.
Ooh.
We may.
Ooh.
Probably.
And be sure to follow the whole team at the Rooster Team on Twitter. And be sure to follow me at Megan. None of my social media handles are Megan. You guys can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at the Menguin. That's TheMenguin. Be sure to check out Welcome to Vale. Check out the Team Public Store. All that fun stuff. Thank you guys so much for watching. We will see you all next week.
Our founder, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and me, Maria Menounos, would like to thank you for tuning in to AfterBuzz TV. Remember, we're not just the first, we're the biggest in the world, and we're the only destination for all your favorite TV shows. Whatever you crave, we've got it. So go to AfterBuzzTV.com and check out our lineup. Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.